And it feels like I'm on top of the world. Top of the world. Top of the world, baby. And it feels like I'm on top of the world. Top of the world. Top of the world. Right where I should be.
This is the Hollywood Success Podcast, where we share the strategies and mindset that will help you achieve your biggest dreams in Hollywood. I'm Erica Wernick, Hollywood Success Coach, and I'm a little obsessed with helping you get to the next level in your Hollywood career without ever needing a lucky break. You've got this. Hello, welcome to the Hollywood Success Podcast. What's up? This is episode 308. I am your host, Erica Wernick, and today I'm really excited, and I'm not just saying that, I'm actually legitimately excited for this amazing guest that we have today, Miss Deborah S. Craig, and I'm going to share a little bit about her bio. You're going to be blown away by it. And I'm actually going to read word for word the first paragraph because you just have to hear this from her IMDb. But Deborah is best known for originating the role of Marcy Park on Broadway in William Flynn's Tony Award-winning musical, the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. Okay.
Woo!
Wait, I love this sentence. Based on her own overachieving childhood, it earned her critical acclaim, a Drama Desk Award, and the distinction of creating the first Korean American character on Broadway. Okay, that is crazy in itself, and I just had to read that to begin with. But not only has Deborah had an incredible career originating a role on Broadway and winning a Drama Desk Award, but she's also been in countless television shows and movies, and I've seen her in live theater as well. Part of me reaching out to her was incredibly selfish because she was in one of my favorite shows that I binge all the time, Heart of Dixie. I'm really excited to talk to her about that, but basically, all in all, Deborah is an incredibly talented actress with bazillion credits and accolades to her name, and I'm just so glad to pick her brain and share her expertise with all of you. So welcome.
Woo! Willkommen.
Welcome.
What an intro, Erica. Like, you know, it's so like a gajillion or bajillion. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I call my credits, but my bajillion credits.
Well, I actually counted them and I got a billion.
I'm so pleased to talk to you because your podcast and you really inspire me. I just feel like you always have such positive, thoughtful ways of looking at things and thinking about things that I think are useful and that I carry with me. And I look to you for inspiration. So I'm flattered that you want to talk to my ass.
Thanks. Should we share how we met? That's a good
I love it.
I saw Deborah perform. Actually, I was trying to think. I maybe think the first time I talked to you was actually at Rockwell at one of the nights where you all sang, because that's also when I met Scott for the first time. And so I think that's maybe the first time you and I chatted.
Yeah, no, that was really fun. And that was like a great way to be integrated into LA, that they were doing these live shows. They took popular movies because it was, you know, it's LA, it's Hollywood. And so I was in a show that was about, I think this was the one I was in, the Coen Brothers movies. And then we did songs and scenes from those movies. And I played Marge from Fargo. And I played another, I forgot what else movie I did it from, but they convinced me to wear a bikini and sing a song.
I'm like, was it that one, or was it when you guys sang musicals? Because I definitely saw Scott sing Last 5 Years.
Oh yeah, you're right. This was at the I Am a Cabaret benefit. I'm like, and then I sang this bikini. So no, it was at the I Am a benefit. Yeah, Scott he sings so great. And I saw him. So when I was in Spelling Bee, he was in Altar Boys, and so I was such a fan. And we did award seasons together, and I would see him. We all performed at all these different awards events, and I just was like, "Who is this?" All of those guys were dreamy, singing about the Bible, but he was just such a real triple threat. And then getting to work with him, it was so great. We had this musical theater bond, and that was special. And I don't know, theater people are special people. We share a bond, and we always and like, you know, just anyone who loves musicals makes me happy, like you. So Yeah, I think that was that. And I sang a song by Canosian and Blair that was from Murder for Two, which is they're two of my favorite composers.
And I
Singers.
feel like when I met you that time, it was around the time where you were on a TV show. Cause I remember you talking about like, were you naked or were you?
I mean, probably.
I remember having a conversation. It was some drama. Of course, I'm not remembering it all, but
I think during that time I had come off the blacklist.
okay.
But I did do something there in my underwear, but it was like really pretty tame because it was network TV.
Hmm.
But I mean, I really have been grateful for those opportunities because there's nothing that makes you want to get in shape more or have a clean diet than knowing that you're going to be on network TV in your underwear. Like it's the most, nothing can motivate you more. And I'm not one to starve or diet. So if that's coming up, I'm just like, all right, I'm going to run 2 miles a day. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to cut out cake. And I'm going to try to just eat lean things with low sodium.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we met there and I continue to see you at other IAMA events. And I was going to tell you this. I went to one of the IAMA shows that was in like a black box type of theater. And I feel it. Oh, was it might have been one of the 24-hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I still remember your performance. And you were playing, it was a comedy. And was it something in a supermarket?
You know, I did a couple of those.
Okay.
I think
An incredibly compelling opening to this podcast. People are like already bored. Like, get your shit together. Don't you remember details? What?
I was actually worried that you were going to reference something that I performed in that I didn't remember, and I often don't remember once I've done them until people remind me, just because the RAM can only get so full. Like,
okay. Well,
and then I delete it.
When you have a career like you, where you're like, I've performed in so many things, how can I possibly?
Oh, go on, never stop, never stop.
Yeah, you know. But no, you were so funny, and I remember you being just a really wonderful comedic actress in that, which is amazing to me because I shouldn't even say this because I hate to, you know what, delete it. I was going to put out there like, oh, wow, you do comedy, you do drama, you also do Broadway, but that's stupid. I don't even like to put that story out there that it's so amazing and rare that you can do all these, like a good actor can do those things.
No, but I appreciate that because I do think, you know, as actors, people look at you and they define you and they decide what you should and shouldn't play and what you're right for. And there is like this process of constantly proving like, no, actually I can do this, or you can see me as that. And I think when you're Asian American like me, if you can't see me on this podcast, I'm Asian American. There is this
makeup. Maybe I should post this video.
But when you, so when people will really try to pigeonhole you and stereotype you, and it's like sort of a thing that you can get stuck on. Like early in my career, I was very much typecast as an ingenue, and I was like, oh, that's just not who I am. So I sort of steered myself into comedy because I felt like I would have more longevity, and there would be more opportunities. And I also just felt like at the time that people were much more willing to hire an ethnic person or person of color in comedy, and playing drama as an Asian American was really relegating me to playing immigrants and accented characters. And I wasn't comfortable with that. And I also felt like that was sort of not a great way to grow a long career. And I also am adopted and didn't grow up in a culturally Asian household with any sort of Asian language. So I also felt like a major imposter playing an immigrant, unless it was like an immigrant from Florida to Minnesota. So I was like, that's not really most people's immigration journey. So I steered myself into comedy, and then was able to sort of flip back and forth between comedy and drama once I established myself more in comedy.
I love it. Yeah, you really have done so well in all of those genres. And so it's been fun cheering you on and watching you perform. Okay, I'm trying to think of like what do I want to.
Well, same with you. I also love seeing how you've been growing your career and how you've been growing and just expanding upon what you share in terms of your philosophy and what motivates you and your journey and I think that's been also really wonderful. And that's sort of the great thing about being in this business too, is watching people grow and evolve, being there on that journey with them.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I've really learned, especially this year, that it's so much more about the journey than any of the destinations. And easy as that is, I mean, it's about the process so much.
I mean, especially right now.
Yes.
We have to be so present.
Yes.
Can I curse on your podcast?
Oh, yes.
You have to be so fucking present right now. Like, it's a definition. You're like,
update that. So fucking present.
I'm like, what would a dog do? That dog would stop and sniff and would really notice every little small change happening in the world.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's talk about Heart of Dixie.
Okay.
Let's
go to Bluebell.
I know. I texted my aunt. She's a fan. I was like, what do you want me to ask Shelly? Like, oh my gosh, is it going to be on Facebook? I'm like, no, it's a podcast. Shout out to my aunt. She may be listening to this. We are both Shelly fans. And so you played a character on Heart of Dixie. And I'm very drawn to shows like Heart of Dixie where they're character driven and it's a set of friends where you feel like you want to be friends with them. And it's in this very like idyllic town. I mean, basically any show that takes place on that Warner Brothers lot in that little town there with the gazebo, I'm just there. I'm all for it.
Yeah. And Gilmore Girls was also shot there.
Of course I do. Of
course you know this. Yes. Yeah. And like,
I posted a screenshot the other day on my Insta stories. Very important for me to share this. There was a shot of Levon sitting outside, and behind him was Patty's dance barn from Gilmore Girls.
Oh my gosh!
Yes,
your worlds colliding into
I know
magic,
like,
Hollywood magic.
What happens when everything films in the same Warner Brothers town? So ironically, I was telling you that I was working on a show, but I don't think it was the first season for you. So I don't think you were actually there. But I worked on a show that was right next to the trailers for Heart of Dixie. I think it was actually the last season of Heart of Dixie.
You worked on Shameless, right?
Stalker.
Oops. Okay.
Stalker. It was
Shameless also filmed on the same lot too.
Yes.
So
their stage is near the commissary.
Oh, well done, Erica.
I know Warner Brothers very well.
I mean, it's a pretty magical place.
It is. It really is. I love it.
Driving onto that lot is like an incredible feeling.
And I think when I did Stalker, it was just one season. It got canceled. And it was actually one of the first shows that I quit. But I think it was Heart of Dixie's last season. And I think I didn't really remember watching it when I was on, but I guess I did because I have memories seeing the actors walk around the lot. And, we were right in between the trailers and the town. And I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, that's Wade. And just, feeling so excited. I'm kind of curious, like, you as an actor, do you still get fangirly about anything that you watch,
Everything.
Okay.
Like, I love to be entertained. Mm-hmm. And every job I have, everything I've ever been on, like I'm fangirly about. Like I love the lore from it. I love the people on it. I love getting to see people who I admire and respect or fangirl over work. That's always so exciting to see them do their magic because even though you might know them from the media and like the magic they do there, actually getting to see them do it in person is always incredible. I'm always like, this is happening. Mm-hmm. This is awesome. I remember, so I was in New York in the 90s when I was 4. And you're supposed to laugh there, Erica. Good, that's good. We'll work on that. But I remember seeing Jamie King was James King then. And he used to stand in front of this cafe that I loved in the East Village. And I'm sure it's okay if I say this because there's so many photos of her, but she used to smoke cigarettes and be in these like cool menswear clothes. And I was like,
there's a lot of photos of her with cigarettes.
Yeah. And I was like, look at like, that's a supermodel. I'm like, oh, it's a real supermodel. She drinks the same coffee that I do. So like, I remember when I was working with her, I was like, I also went to Cafe Orlin. I also drank coffee there. And so it was a really fun moment.
Did you get to say that to her?
I did say this to her. I don't know if she remembers that time in her life and standing in front of Cafe Orlin, but I remember it because she always had on these cool men's blazers. Like she had like a velvet blazer. And that was when like fashion was like everything, right? It was like a total life. It still is, but that was exciting. And then I had read Rachel Bilson had a column in InStyle about fashion, and I had read her column, and that was what made me a fan. I hadn't watched the OC so much, but I I had read her column about fashion advice. I was like, oh, this woman gives great fashion advice. And that's where I sort of like was a fan of hers from. And then I knew Brandy Burkhart Cricket from being on Broadway, and
then Scott.
Yes. And then I didn't know Wilson prior to, but Wilson's just one of the coolest people in the world. It's sort of upsetting, like how he's so talented and also just like on the right side of history. Like he always is like fighting the good fight.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
super smart. And
I'm
like,
Wade like forever. So,
you know, one of my best friends, her kids are like 11 and 5, or 10 and 5. And they've been watching Carter Dixie because they feel like it's family friendly. Although there was a couple things they were like, oh, we didn't know how to explain that.
yeah, there's some sexy stuff.
Yeah. But I was like, oh, are the kids Team Wade or Team George? And she was like, Team Wade. I was like, but George is a lawyer. Like, that's such a better choice. Like, that's a better life choice. Don't go with the bartender.
The abs.
I know, the abs. I'm like, I was always Team George. I'm like, I want a lawyer. I want an educated lawyer who is sensitive and a family man. I'm like, you know.
Wait, my aunt and I have had like lengthy discussions about how we actually thought Joel was like a really decent partner for Zoe, because like it was one of the healthiest relationships that she had. There wasn't a lot of drama unless it was about Wade or George, and yeah,
I know, like it's hard to find those health relationships hot, you know, not just on TV.
So anyway, so when you had these moments of feeling, you know, excited about Rachel and Jamie and just how you knew them in the past, then what was it like the very first time you had a scene with either one of them?
It was good. And I actually want to tell you that the audition was interesting because I am from the South and I grew up in Lakeland, Florida, which is like real Southern and like sort of, you know, it's real country, as they say. And I had also lived in Atlanta. So like I was a naturally Southern person, and I asked them when I was doing the research for the audition, I was like, do you want me to have a Southern accent? And they're like, no, it's fine. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. You know, like we're in Bluebell, Alabama.
Yeah.
So I did the audition right before we were all going to go in. The cast director was like, oh, they just want you to do a Southern accent also. And like, I saw the other people in the room be like, fuck. And I was like, I got this. I got this.
I was born
like,
for this.
I was born for this. I have big hair. I love makeup, and I am Southern as fuck. So that was really great, and I was able to use my and then I had the dialect coach at the time sent me a CD to get all the vowels and consonants regionally appropriate and correct, and I did it, and she said, you can just lay it all a little thicker, but other than that, it's perfect. And I was like, this is a dream.
Wow.
Because I do like to say that I'm a nice Southern girl from South Korea.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah, thank you. God bless your sugar. God bless yours. Let me get this banana bread out and this
oh my god,
this sun tea for you.
So, but were you nervous at all to film your first scene with Rachel or Jamie, just having that previous kind of admiration?
I was nervous, and maybe this isn't the best story, but it's a good one. So like my first scene, the makeup artist didn't really know. They wanted to make me look this sort of like, what was their description? Like Rose of the Riveter, and like, they had this idea of like how to give me like a look for the town, which everyone had. And this makeup artist, God bless her, who was so sweet, did something a little bit drastic with my face.
Oh no.
And so I felt like the first scene, everyone was just looking at me like, well, that's not what we're thinking of. Like, we don't necessarily think that's the right look. And so then I remember on my break, Joni Powell, who was the main makeup artist, and she's a wizard genius, she came in and she looked at me, she's like, and she just started wiping my face. And then she just wiped it really hard, and then she just redid the whole thing quickly. And then that's when I knew that those takes were going to be good. So I actually knew going into the first takes, I was like, this isn't going to be, they're not going to use this because I look, I don't want to say crazy, but I'm going to say it just wasn't the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I said, it wasn't quite right. It was a little too it was just really, really dramatic and maybe not the most flattering, but it was a look.
So once your nerves calmed down and then you had the right makeup.
Yeah. You know, I wasn't that nervous because I had come off a TV show in New York that I had done like 11 episodes on. That was a J.J. Abrams ABC show. And everybody on that show was was also incredibly good. And
Mhm.
they moved really fast, and I was a recurring guest star. And so like a lot of times my coverage would be last. They'd shoot the regulars first, and then they'd turn the camera on me. And I had to be so fast to get my coverage in. And I also improvised a lot of that. And it was really great to like, and I had just also come off. So I was doing that TV show while being on Broadway. So after that, I'm not saying that everything was easy, but that it wasn't like, I wasn't so stressed out. I knew I'd prepared a lot. I was Southern. I knew the world. So going into that, I felt pretty good shooting with them. But I was excited. I was nervous, but I was excited more than I was like anxious.
Yeah.
But I was also just excited. I'm always very excited for the food
Oh, craft service, the best.
and catering. Like, so I just am like, how early can I get there to make sure I also get breakfast?
That was also always my thought. And you know what? I got spoiled because one of the very first shows that I had catering on was Entourage. And, and it was in their last season.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
We were having like steak dinners for lunch. I mean, it was, they had the budget on that for season 8, I think.
That's incredible. I think that's the only reason why I actually really am in this business, is because I just love eating so much. And like, I think like I wrapped something, was it like maybe a year and a half ago on Instinct, which is on CBS. And my friend Tom Sesma, who's a Broadway performer, and he's incredible. It's like a dear friend. And so we wrapped and we were playing a couple, and he was like, should we go home? I'm like, no, we're in Brooklyn. It's like 5:30. That van is going to take forever to get us back in the city. And they just broke for dinner. I'm like, are you dumb? Like, let's go eat. So we went, and then we got there, and he was like, oh my God, Deborah, you were right. I'm like, I knew they'd have good catering.
Oh my gosh.
This is a CBS network show. They have great catering.
Oh my gosh. I always love Bruce's. I mean, I literally could go on and on about catering. Yes.
Steak.
I love it. So when we had chatted before and I was asking you why you were only in the first season of Heart of Dixie, because I was like, we loves you. Why were you only in season 1? And I was so like, I was just curious and trying to make up my own reasons. I was like, she got another show, or they somehow wrote her out for some reason, which didn't make any sense because you really fit in there. So would you tell your...
Yes. Will you play dramatic music? And then I'll say like, Shelley Ng talks about her departure.
Yes. That was, I got nothing.
It was a cold day in LA. It was 72 degrees. I loved working on that show, and I love, everybody on that show. And I really wanted to stay. And at the time I had some representation I'd switched to in LA from New York. And there was a lot of miscommunication about my contract. And I had this understanding of what it was. And apparently like that communication was not correct, that what that rep had told me was not what the network had told him. And I'd come off a specific contract in New York and was asking Heart of Dixie to meet the same rate or the same amount of billing or those things.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was asking for more. I was just asking to be met from what I was before. But this Heart of Dixie also was shooting right after the writer's strike. So it was, and so when I was told that I wasn't going to get what I had originally gotten, and understandably, like I was coming from like a big network show to like CW is a smaller network than ABC, and I understand how those things work, but there was just a lot of miscommunication, and I had to, for a business decision, I wasn't able to return because I just had to make sure I was staying where I was in my career and sort of on an upward trajectory. And sort of, when you're in this, when you're in a long-term business, you're thinking about like, you do have to forecast, like, where is this going? How is this going to be lucrative? Where will this get me artistically? And where will I be most fulfilled, so that if I'm fulfilled, then I'm doing a great job, and that everybody is, you want to be all in on something. You want to be passionate and committed. And so it was just like a business thing. And it was really that rep's issue that wasn't the right communication. And that's what happens sometimes. Like, they just wanted me to take this job. And it's okay. Like, it worked out great. I got some great jobs, but I was sad to leave Blue Blow. It was like an emotionally hard decision.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about this because to somebody listening who's an actor who maybe has never even booked their first TV credit, to turn down a job because the rate isn't being matched or something might blow their mind. And to me, I was telling you, you know, this decision is total high achiever type of decision. And this is what successful people do. And the reason why it's different than what less successful people do is because when you turn something down or say no to something, you are living in the space where you know you're going to get something else.
Yes. And
Right?
it's hard to do. It's hard to take that leap forward and be like, I believe in myself and my ability, and I believe in my earning potential, and that I want to, but you know, there's not really a great sports metaphor for this. I was like, well, what if you were traded to this team? But it's not really the same thing. But it was like, yeah, I was getting on the last show I was on, I was top of show guest star. And then Heart of Dixie had so many characters. So they had offered me a recurring co-star, which is something I had never done before. And I was happy because it was a world I was excited to be in. It was a team I wanted to work with. I think Lila's a genius. You know, I just so like I was excited. And then sort of the idea was that I would get bumped to guest star, top show guest star, recurring guest star, whatever. And that just wasn't happening. They were giving me more to do and they were really great to me. But, you know, the co-star rate is also a lesser rate.
Right.
And there's also lesser back end for like your future residuals. And so, and I've been in the business since I was like 4.
Oh my gosh.
And union since I was 16. So I just have always thought in terms of like, how can this support me to like, so I can keep doing this and also I can be all in. You know, I don't want to show up somewhere and be like, not happy to be there. That's not good for anyone. So my agent then had said like, you know, this is what they offered you. They promised to give you a recurring guest star if you just do these episodes. And I think I did 16 episodes of Heart of Dixie, which was really great. And they're a family to me. And so the next year when they said, oh, you know, we're offering her this co-star, I was like, I just can't, because going from that to like a top show guest star and to be seen in that way, or to have that kind of to have that kind of compensation, also to have that kind of credit it's a leap if you start to go backwards. And again, like super hard decision. Like I love those people. I still love them and I'm still in touch with a lot of them. And I think they're just like, you know, star humans. They're like wonderful people, wonderful actors. It was a wonderful world to live in. And those decisions are hard. You know, I've done it with theater sometimes too, where I like look at the money and I look at the artistic satisfaction. I was like, is this worth X amount of time for X amount of time away from like doing something on camera? Will this be fulfilling? And ultimately you do have to like look inside yourself and ask yourself, you know, is this where I'm the best fit? Am I going to use my talents best here? Am I going to serve this project well? Am I going to be happy and elevate whatever's happening? And if you feel like you're going to be unhappy, or you feel like you're not, you know, in line with your own business plan, then it is hard to do that. But I also had support of my then new agents, and I had a new manager, and they were very supportive. They said, this is absolutely the right decision to do. You'll be fine. You'll book tons of stuff. And I did have like a hefty reel, and I had to have a pretty great resume. So I felt confident that I could get that next job and be back on my rate and my billing. And it took a minute and it wasn't easy, but I firmly believed in myself and I did the work. And
yeah, I really think that this is huge. And this is like, we call it burning the ships. When you let go of a certain opportunity, you say no to something to make room for something else. And I think also, like, I can really relate to this because I've done this as well, like in graphics and in coaching. I mean, I don't take lower tier shows anymore. It's a huge pay cut and it's to me not worth it. And I think also what people might not understand, when you have a certain amount of experience and you've been doing this now for a bit, the worth for your value changes, and it doesn't feel good anymore to get something less than what you feel that you are worth, right? It's kind of like if I was oh God, what's a good example? Like that's not even in the industry. I'm like, if I was like, hey, Deborah, will you drive from the east side to the west side in LA during rush hour traffic to pick up something for me and I'll pay you $2.
like, Not even for $50, Erica.
I know, exactly, right? And so it's like, oh, hell no, right? It's like when the thing is not matching what you feel, is worth. And I do the same, even with my coaching. I mean, the first fee that I did for my private coaching program, I would never accept now because it would not feel enough. Like, and when it doesn't feel enough, then I'm not giving a lot and I'm annoyed and I'm resentful and I don't want to be coaching the person. And, so you have to raise your rates as your experience grows. And so there's like that whole set of feelings that you just don't recognize or maybe understand until you've had that experience, until you're there.
Absolutely. And that is a well put. And like, so yeah, but if you were like, will you drive to the west side from the east side during rush hour? I'll give you X amount of money and have hot soup dumplings for you ready. And then I will make a media PR post about how you're the greatest person in the world. Then I'm like, maybe I'll do it for the publicity and the soup dumplings.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
So there, you can weigh different factions in that. And if I had a Prius and I was like, okay, well, I won't be like, contributing to the environment in a poor way. So I'm like, this offsets my emissions. So I think there are factors, but also like, this was like poorly handled negotiation. And so like, it was the right thing for me to do, but the communication of it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also a great learning experience. Like, and this agent had no malintention and they're great. And like, but it wasn't like, it just wasn't, we just were on the same page business wise.
Yeah.
So finding people that really were in line with me and that were ambitious and pushing and like growing and wanted to keep my career on the same track that was what I needed. That was a better fit.
Yeah. I love it so much. Like, I love hearing from, as actors, especially when they talk about turning things down, saying no, and asking for what they're worth, because it's such an abundant mindset. And most people in this industry approach everything from scarcity of there's never enough and everything is so rare. And, oh my gosh, are you crazy? You were on a TV show, Heart of Dixie. Why the hell did you leave? Like, you should have stayed there. Nothing, from that scarcity base. Like, I had a conversation with, with someone, not that you guys would know, but if you Googled, whatever. Anyway, no one that worked on a big hit show that went 10 seasons, I think at least 10 seasons, and they could have gone another, but the actors were over it and they were ready to move on. And so the reason why they didn't come back again is because the actors didn't want to. And this person that worked on the show that I was talking to didn't understand. And he was like, they're idiots. Like, they could have done this again and made another million. And like, wow, what a stupid decision that was on their part. It's like a very fear-based approach, in not understanding like that they might not think that way. So I think it's just really important to spend a lot of time talking about.
There are some things though, like if you're on like I've heard a lot of people complain about being on long-term procedurals, but like you do make such a lucrative salary that you should just stick it out. You know what I mean? Like sometimes,
and then it goes like, but what's more important, money or happiness? Because if you're not happy and if you're not feeling fulfilled, then the lucrative part isn't, money doesn't buy happiness.
1,000% agree. Although I do think, let's say like you're on a procedural and like, which is hard. You have a lot to memorize and it's like the sort of same. And first of all, I'd love to be in a procedural. Hi everybody. What's up? Thanks. If you feel artistically not satisfied, it is lucrative. You can take that money. You can start your own projects, produce your own projects. You can do a lot of things creatively to fulfill yourself while you have a house in the Hamptons and a house in the Palisades. Like you can really make that, and you can support other projects. You can fund things. You can produce. When I've had like some really good paydays, I've taken that money and put it into short projects that I want to do that are fulfilling to me, that have something that I want to say. So I feel like there's many ways to that. So like in this case, it wasn't just monetary. It was like monetary. It was also like billing, and it was just, and also just like, sometimes you do have to think about like, okay, how much of an audience will I reach here? How much I will reach here?
Yes,
what is the longevity? And what you're saying about scarcity, I think that's so true. I do have something that is my mantra, and I do think it's really important. Like I always bet on me. So like, I bet on me. So if someone is like, I'm like, I can, because I'll do it, because I bet on me. Like I believe in this business. I think this business is like a success. I think it's a winner. I think this is who people should invest money in. I think it's worth it. And I think you always have to have that mind frame. Like when you're going in for representation meetings or when you're going into like audition for things, you have to think like, I gamble everything on this. Like, you know, so I think it's really important that, I mean, you still have to assess your risk and think like, you know, what are you actually betting or whatever. But, you know, I was bet on me. And I think that's what's.
I just did a live on this. Like it all comes down to that. Because the fear-based and the scarcity-based and any other strategic moves, it all stems, you know, from your belief in yourself. And so if your belief in yourself is wavering and it's not super strong, you're going to have those fear-based thoughts and you're going to make those scarcity-based decisions and, you know, in your career.
That is 1,000% true. And that's what I love about your philosophy. And this is where I think sports really play a heavy hand in sort of my philosophy. You know, like you can't go out and get up, you know, I can't get up at bat and be like, I don't know if I'm a good baseball player. I don't know if I can hit this out of the park. You know, you have to get up there and think I'm going to hit a home run every time. And you have to prepare as though I get those seconds from the time the ball leaves the pitcher's hands into my, you know, until like it strikes, until I have time to swing. And it's like, it's seconds. And you have to really believe like, I'm going to do this. And I can do this. And if I strike out, I'm going to get up and do it again. I'm going to try again.
Where do you think that
swing for the fences?
Yeah, like for you, like where does that come from? Why do you think you have that unwavering belief in yourself?
Well, Erica, it comes from watching baseball.
I thought so.
It comes from liking corn dogs. I think it just comes from knowing early on in my life that I would be an underdog. Like I started off in life, I'm adopted from Korea, or as I call it, land of the beautiful people.
That's why you're so beautiful. Damn.
Oh, stop it, Erica. Never stop. My thing. So I think it comes from that. And then, you know, I grew up in a family that didn't have like a lot of income. My father was an ELC, a Lutheran minister in the South, which is not that popular. Like if you're going to be in the South, you should be Baptist. Like that's where the dough is. Like my friend, her dad was a Baptist minister and they had a Mercedes. You know, we had a Corolla, you know, like that's just, so we didn't have like much disposable income but we loved the arts. We loved comedy. We loved creativity. And I saw early on that I could make money and support myself from performing. So like I started singing when I was 4, and I remember the first time I sang, people went crazy and they like someone made me a cake and I was like, this is the life.
Again, it all comes back to the catering.
It all comes back to catering. And every time I would do something, they would always bring me like food, there's desserts. And like if I sang, there was always a buffet or something. I'm like, great.
When there's a breakup, you bring a breakup pie.
Breakup pie. So there was like, and then like I started acting and I started playing piano when I was 7 and I would play for money. I mean, I've just been like, what's the word I was looking for? Monetizing my talents for a long time, but not in a prostitute-like way.
No wonder you turned down season 2 of Heart of Dixie. You were making thousands at age 7 playing the piano.
I mean, you know, you gotta have a gimmick, as they say. And then, I got my first like union jobs when I was 15 on Nickelodeon, but I just knew like being an Asian American actress, like I didn't see myself represented on the screen. I saw like people who looked like me always played prostitutes. There was always in a war movie. And just weren't visible. And there was no one that I ever saw that was like me, that was like quirky and also totally East Asian. And that wasn't playing, you know, it was really hard to see roles that were not immigrants. And there's validity to those roles and there's stories to be told there, but that wasn't my story that I felt like was my story to tell. So, I just always knew. And my father was also very much, he was a big influence in my life. And he was always just saying, you know, you've got to work harder. You've got to be better. Wow. Even though he wasn't Asian American. My friends are always like, wow, your dad was so Korean. Made you play the piano. He was like, he didn't think your papers were good enough.
Oh
like, you were Asian after all.
Wow. So
I think it came from that, but it also came from me as a little girl. I remember they were making the movie Annie, And I really thought like I could do it. Like I was young at the time, but I was like, I could be Annie in the movie. Like I could do it. Like I can really sing it. And like, I love dogs. Um, and I'm an actual orphan. Like I really know how to tell this story. And I remember my parents being like, if we had the money, we could go to New York. You would absolutely be Annie, or maybe Molly, because she's the smaller one. But they're like, you could totally do it. And it didn't occur to me at the time that there was no way I was going to get the role of Annie because I'm Asian. And as I got older and saw like, oh, wow, there's nothing for me to aspire to. Like, I'm not a beautiful high soprano. I can't play Tuptim in The King and I, again, like I'm not an ingenue, like in Flower Drip Song, those are the only things available. And so I felt like I'm going to have to do this myself. I'm going to have to get out the machete and I'm going to have to pave the way. And I'm going to have to be so good that they had to look past my ethnicity.
Wow.
And I still feel like that a little bit.
And how old were you when you had that thought?
So young that I don't remember how old I was.
Like a child. I mean, yeah, that's incredible. And so I'm curious because, I've just been doing my own work. When people don't believe in themselves the way that you do, usually they had an event, an experience, a rejection, something in their life, maybe multiple things in their life that kind of tore down their self-esteem or their self-worth. Like, I can't imagine that you've gone through this life in this industry and not been rejected or not been, how did it just didn't affect you the same way because you had the strong belief in yourself? Like, what was your experience with those moments?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because you're right. I've actually never been rejected. I've gotten every single job I've ever auditioned for.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually been just it's just been the wind in my sails the whole way. So I don't even know how to relate to people that aren't me, that aren't just winning all the fucking time.
Oh my gosh.
I like that I have permission to curse on your podcast. So actually I did have one turning point when I was 14, I guess, or 15. My friend took me to our community theater auditions. Or no, I went to the community theater auditions for this place called the Pied Pipers Players. And this man, Paul Hughes, was the director. And I had done community theater since I was a kid. And he was extremely influential in my life and believed in me. And and he's no longer with us, but he was really, really a special man. And so I went to audition for The Wizard of Oz to play Dorothy. And I remember getting up on stage and just belting my face off and being like, I have got this, because no one else could really belt Somewhere Over the Rainbow the way I can. And then it was down to 3 of us. And one actress was more of the dancer Dorothy. I was the singer Dorothy. One actress was more of the actor Dorothy. And then they called me and said that I didn't get it. And they offered me like some tertiary role that I was like, fuck that. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm Dorothy or I'm nothing. I'm not gonna, and I cried super, super hard. And my brother, who was also Asian American, he came over and consoled me. He's like, Deborah, I'm so sorry. He's like, I believe in you. I believe in you. Dorothy than me. But I cried for hours. Like it was I just knew, I felt like I was the best.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand. And then I did understand that my friend was like, why don't you come to this other audition with me? And it was at a bigger theater. It was called Theater Winterhaven. And actually, Karen Olivo, Tony winner Karen Olivo, her father ran this community theater. And I auditioned for, my friend said, come with me. You probably won't get in because it's usually people they know and they've been doing it for a while, but we'll just come, it'll be fun. And I auditioned for it, and they were doing an adaptation of Cinderella, and I got the role of Cinderella.
Wow.
And I was flabbergasted. Like it was such a dream. And before we were opening, I talked to the director. Her name was Ruthie. She was so great. And I was like, hey, I feel super uncomfortable. Like all these schools are coming to see Cinderella tomorrow, and we live in Florida. And to them, Cinderella's blonde hair and blue-eyed, and I just don't look like a Disney princess. And I just feel like, wow. I feel awful. And I was crying. And she was like, Cinderella lives with her stepmother and stepsisters, so we don't know like what she's supposed to look like. And like, I promise you, like you are Cinderella.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Right. And then when I performed for these schools, I was terrified, but I performed for these schools, and then I remember when I came out of the stage door, these buses of kids were like, instead of saying like, you're not Cinderella, you're not white, which is what I was thinking they were going to say, right? They were like, you kissed a boy. That's all. And also, actually, that boy, Matt Tierney, he's now like a really well-known sound designer in New York. And I've run into him and it's like really special. Like, but he was my prince in Cinderella, but I was so terrified, and that's all they could focus on was that I kissed a boy. And I thought that was like a huge moment for me, was that if I believe I'm this character and I tell this story, that they'll also believe it, and that I can transcend even my own fears of projected, racism onto myself. That I can overcome that. Like if I believe it, they'll believe it. But that's the leap I had to make all the time.
I hope everyone's listening real closely, because what you just said is gold. Gold. Oh my gosh. It's what you just said is so important. And, I talk about the concept of, in your marketing, to educate people on how you want to be seen. And you get to decide, instead of allowing external people to decide how you should be seen, and then you let your marketing be dictated by them. But it's the same thing here, but you're talking about, you're talking about going beyond race and going beyond all of these other things. And oh my gosh, I literally cannot even speak, because I just am.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're on that train with me. And people will love to tell you statistics. They'll love to tell you, like, this is the percentage of actors that work. This is the percentage of people that work that look like you. This is the, and you just have to throw all of that out, because, it's the same thing. I look at, like, Olympians, like, they're the best of the best, right? And they, like, I'm sure they don't think about those percentages. They think about being their best all the time. But yeah, I don't get caught up in numbers. I don't get caught up in the cans. I don't get caught up in any of those things, because that's not a way to win or to have your best life or to be fulfilled. Like, it doesn't do anything but harm yourself. And I'm not saying I don't have bad days where I'm like, where I eat a bunch of cheese, but.
No, 100%. And the percentages thing, I talk about that a lot. I call that, like, there are two pools, and one pool is most people and the other pool are the successful people. And just because the pool that has the successful people are smaller doesn't mean the most people pool is more worthy of your focus.
Right. And on that same metaphor too, like, I think the thing that has been interesting for me is that it doesn't get easier. Like, you think like, oh, I get to a certain place and it's easier because I'm better at it. And then you get to that next tier and, like, everybody's even better. And so you have to work even harder to be at their level, or to compete at that level. And it's always like an evolving challenge. Definitely.
And I think, like, with the percentages, people love to tell you the percentages, and it's like, okay, so 90% of SAG actors aren't actually working actors. Great, I'm going to be the last 10.
Yes.
And so you can't, like, oh, well, because most people will fall into that 90%. Great, I'm not here to be most people. And the more you focus on that, the more you're in that herd mentality, and you're not setting yourself up to succeed. And so that's why I'm, like, really trying to highlight all of these little nuanced things that you're talking about, because it's the difference between how a successful person thinks and how someone else thinks who is just trying for the rest of their life.
Preach, Erica Wernick. But I say, like, I really don't believe in just playing to play the game. I really think you play to win. Like, otherwise why? Like play to win. Like, if you want to just sort of play to be in the game, like, go do something else.
Yeah.
There's too much competition. It's too hard. People are so devoted and dedicated and inspired, and if you don't work firmly at that inner belief, then other people aren't going to have that inner belief in you also.
Yep. 100%. So what would be some challenges that you face now at the level that you're at?
I think, well, there is this, I did that pilot last year, The Emperor of Malibu, and I knew they were looking for a star name, like a household name. But I also knew that it was a specific genre. I knew it was like a multicam sitcom with, really had to be able to handle language, a live audience, and be able to take comedic notes in real time from, like, 8 different people, and synthesize them to make it look organic. It's such an easy job. Um, and I knew they were looking for a household name. They were trying to find like, who can we get that's going to headline this show that people are going to know. And they already had Ken Jeong, who's, you know, a comedic genius and like my hero. So I felt like, okay, well, they already have one good like name, and then they need to cast the wife. And it was a long process because they were looking at every possible Asian and Asian American name they could find. And so the challenge of that was mentally thinking like, okay, well, this is what they're looking for, but I'm the best person for this job. And I'm going to go and I'm going to crush it every time. And I did, every time I went into screen test for it, I didn't say test because people are like, what's test? I'm a screen test. I, you know, re-prepared. So I did lots of like, I watched like every CBS multicam there ever was. And then I looked at the script a million times. I rehearsed it all the time. I was constantly doing like yoga and meditation. And I do these like Hay House meditations. They're podcasts that some of them are really hippy deep, but some of them are like, you're in a fountain. The fountain pours over you. And I'm like, all right, it's not. Imagine the fountain washing away everything ever that was bad that happened to you. Now you're leaving the fountain. You're going to a farmhouse. And I like some of them are like that, but you just have to scroll through and find the ones that work for you.
I love it. I love the hippy dippy.
I love them. So I did that every day, and I just had to like the hardest part of it was just staying mentally like checked in, because the hardest thing was I couldn't choke during the testing. So I had to really figure out how to not choke. And so the challenges now with this competition is just that everybody that I am auditioning against or in conjunction with, they're all incredible. They're all like, you know, top of their game all the time. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. Like I walk in a room and I see my friends that I know are incredible, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta be good today. You know, Maureen Sebastian's here. Like, I gotta crush this. You know, or like Sujin Kim, like these are New York actors, but I see them and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta be good. So I appreciate that. And I think what you're saying is like the challenge is always with yourself.
Yes.
It's really not, you're really not in competition with any people. Are like, who are your competition? I'm like, they're not my competition. They just like totally different than what I do and very unique. It's me that I have to constantly try to like, you know, stay connected to. And so I've been in acting class during this pandemic, and it's been really humbling.
I love it. I love it.
My teacher was like, oh, it's really not that great. So I think the challenge is to constantly be evolving as you get older, as you have more experience, to see like what more you can bring, how much more efficient you can be with your work, how nuanced, you know, and how effortless. I mean, it really should be trying regularly all the time to not look like I'm working.
Yeah. I remember one of our mutual friends, I'm not going to name names, but
But Barack Obama, is that who you were going to say?
I was saying we're not saying names. Not saying names. Damn.
Our mutual friend,
Yeah,
former president of the United States, Barack Obama. I'm so glad you brought him up.
And his wife, Michelle.
Yes. I love Becoming so much.
His wife was a series regular a long time on the show for a long time. And I was saying, you know, what's that next level like? You know, because people think when actors are starting out, they think that series regular is like the holy grail. And that once you hit series regular, you know, your life is forever easy and there are no challenges beyond that. And you just get offers only all the time and blah, blah, blah. Right. And I remember him telling me about his wife, you know, after being a series regular for several years on a long running show. And then he was like, yeah, but now she's auditioning and it's up against an A-lister, or, you know, like the competition has changed now. And so, you know, people don't understand that at every level there's going to be a new challenge, a new hurdle, a new obstacle, and that it's not about it ever really getting quote unquote easier, but like you were saying, it's all just within yourself and getting better at the conversation that you have with yourself.
1,000%. And that is true. Like you can go from being like a popular series regular to just being like, I gotta show them what I can do and I gotta prove myself. And I also gotta stay in that series regular, having that kind of skill set that's that sharp and that fresh and like ready to go. But in that same thing, I was going to say about the competition was, it is with yourself, and if you keep that up on a regular basis, it doesn't feel that bad. If you just stay on top of your game all the time,
Right.
you're always ready to get on the court, you know? You're not like, that's I think the big thing is like, just be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Be ready to go. Like even during this time, I'm like, I'm ready. I'm like,
Yeah. So on that same note, then, if you are up for a project that you don't get, are you super let down, or do you feel more even?
I try to book I try to book every job I go in for. Like, it doesn't matter the scale or like, I try to win every time. I put my entire self into every
Oh
audition.
yeah, you
And
did tell me that you've never been rejected before. Sorry.
that's right.
I
So
got
when I don't get things, I definitely feel it. I definitely have to mourn them, and I give myself a time limit. So, and sometimes I've bombed auditions, and then I remind myself that even Olympians, fall off the bar. Not that I'm an Olympian, but so where I think about like great big strikeouts and things, and I feel better. But sometimes so if I have let's say I have a terrible audition, like I went in for something recently, and like I was just tongue tied. I just couldn't get the words out, which is the one thing we're supposed to be able to do is talk on cue, speak on cue, and I just couldn't. I just kept like, it's so much jargon, and I was just like, it was terrible, and so I was super bummed out. So like, I do a couple of things. Like I like acknowledge that it was a bad audition. Sometimes I call a few friends or I'll text and be like, I just bombed this. And like, we're always really supportive, and we'll be like, no problem. You're great. You can win the next one, or like everyone has an off day, or, that's a good thing to remember. And then I always get myself a treat. Like after every big audition, I get like a treat. Like I'll go get like a nice cappuccino, or I'll get with like soy milk though. Okay. Or coconut milk, not real milk. And then or I'll like take myself out to lunch and read a book. I'll change gears. But I'll do something nice for myself, or I'll just go walk around, and I don't pretend that it didn't happen. I don't try to like not process it. I process the whole thing. If it's like a big job, I was up for a big show on HBO for a long time, and the people attached to it, we had a huge game changing job. I mean, I've had game changing jobs, but and they had me on hold for like months, and were like, she's in contention, and it was like, I was like, this can't be happening, and then it didn't happen. And I cried, and I like just sat around, and I was, just mopey for like, I don't know, I think I gave myself one whole day just to be super depressed.
Oh, just one day. That's great.
Yeah. But I let myself be super depressed. Like
Yeah.
I like,
Yeah, but just one day is pretty impressive.
well, thanks. Well, I just feel like it's important, but I take that time to like mourn it, to be sad, to like feel sorry for myself, to tell my friends how unfair life is. And then the next day I start over again, and I'm like, let's go. What's the next thing coming down the track? Like, I think it's important to give yourself a limit, but I think it's really important to process those feelings and to not pretend that it wasn't like, and then sometimes I look at it and I think, is there anything I would have done differently? I try to assess everything that happened. I'm like, was there something I could have done mentally? Was there a different acting choice I could have made? Could I have like, is there some way I could have upped my game? And in this case, I felt like I gave such a strong performance, and I was totally true to myself. And they ended up going with someone who was not Asian American, even though they had written the part for an Asian American. So I just felt, and they went with a bigger name. They went with a name, and I'm like, well, okay, right. I'd hire that person too.
Right. So, okay, wait. So then back to some of our earlier conversation. If you have one of these, not necessarily where they then go to a name, but another quote unquote rejection where you don't get the part, does it ever get at that belief in yourself? Like, do you when you feel sad and depressed, are you only sad because you didn't get it, or is there a part of you also thinking, oh man, I'm not good enough?
Oh, I think every actor has moments of like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm an imposter.
Yeah.
I'm a hack. Even Meryl Streep has admitted to having moments like that of like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I have those moments, and I'm like, but then I really work through them. I have like an amazing therapist, and I have a really strong yoga practice, and I journal, and I just accept that things can be shitty. Sometimes they're shitty, and I just remind myself the pendulum always swings the other way. So you can be like not working, you can be not killing it, you can be having a terrible time, and like eventually the odds just shift in your favor. Like they just do. They can't always be bad, they can't always be good. You just have to write it out. Like, and that's who survives through this process, are people who can just like literally survive. They can stay mental. I'm like, people are like, what's the best thing I should do to, in acting? I'm like, you just have to stay sane. Like, just have to not lose your mind.
Yeah.
That's the key to longevity.
No, I think, again, like, I love hearing about your process, because I do think that this is the difference that, and why you are successful. But having your own sort of routine almost for when you get rejected or when you don't get a role. And so much of it is the mindset work and is the belief work. You have a therapist, a journaling, yoga, you're doing the things that bring you back to life. From the inside out, you're doing and I think that having some sort of daily mindset practice is so important to all of us, because I always tell my clients, like, the goal is to shorten the amount of time you feel shitty. So, for some people, like, I have talked to actors who get, dropped by an agent and they feel bad for a year. So it's really about, like, how can we shorten this time? So when you're saying, I let myself do it for a day, I mean, that's amazing. Tony Robbins talks about how he gives himself 90 seconds. So
wow.
I know.
But he also walks on hot coals barefoot. I mean,
and he's a man. I also think, like, maybe women, we just feel things more. But I do think, like what you're talking about is so important to, I always say, like, feel your feelings, feel it out. You have to process it. But you don't want to stay there. And it's really tempting and easy to stay there. So I love that you have this routine, or you have a process to not stay there.
You're so right. Like, you cannot live there because it doesn't serve you. And also, like, again, like, I think I go to sports for everything, because I just think the psychology is the same. And there's this great book called The Inner Game of Tennis. And it talks about how tennis is so much a mental sport. You have to be, because it's at that level, you already figured that you have the athleticism and the training and the reflexes and the skill set. So then what sets you apart? What makes you, like, a Williams sister is the mental agility, is the ability to, like, come back from failure, is to, like, mess up a play and to be like, and to recover. Like, recovery is, but I will say that I have also sometimes had, like, a bad time, and I've taken, like, I took 2 weeks off one time. I just called my team and I was like, you know what? I need to process some things in my life. I'm not feeling great. I need a couple weeks to not be, outputting all the stuff. And I took that time to just, like, be still, to listen to myself, to, like, to fill my creative well up, watching movies or seeing plays or journaling, reading. I love to read books. I love to cook, talking to friends, and things that really just inspire and nourish me, so I could go back and have something to, like, give, to have some output, to have something to really, like, offer. Because I do think all of it is an offering. And so you want to go in and be like, I want to offer this to you, not like, please, I want you to want me. Like, there's no, like, that's not sexy.
No, it's not. I mean, in relationships or in your career. But I talk about all the time that desperate energy of, please choose me, please pick me. It's very rarely gonna work out that way.
And you just have to find different things that work for you in terms of recovery. Like, sometimes I love it. I'm like, oh, I didn't get that. I didn't get this. And I just start tracking them. And I'm like, great. That means that I'm close to booking something, because I have had all these failures. That means I'm up for a win.
Totally. I mean, that's like a thing in sales. It's like every no that you get, you're closer to your yes, because it's just inevitable that out of every 20 sales calls you have, you're going to book 1 or 2. So every no that you get brings you closer to your yes.
Yeah. And then I also just really believe that if someone doesn't want to hire me for that job, then I'm not the right person. That's not my job, that somebody else is meant to do that. And it's like, and I've been dropped by an agent before. And I was just like, well, if they're not that passionate about me, or they don't think that I'm, like, the right fit, or that I'm not delivering what they want, then that isn't a good fit. I want someone to represent me who is, like, really excited about me, who really is, because they have to sell me. They have to be like, you should hire Deborah. You should see her. Like, she's, they want to, they have to love what I do and what I bring to the table. That's a lot of effort on their part, and they're expecting a financial return from me. Mm-hmm. And I get that. So I want to be able to deliver for someone who is behind me 1,000%. And then I'm going to meet them there. And then together we'll have great synchronicity and take over the world in a kind and humane way. The thing, I was going to tell you one more thing about processing rejection. I do have this one thing I used to do, and I used to go in for theater auditions. I used to go and get up for these open calls and sing in the morning and dance. And if I had a bad audition, I would go home and I would take a shower. I would take a little nap. I'd get up and take a shower. and I'd make breakfast and I'd start the entire day over again.
Wow. Oh
And
my God.
I've still done that before. I've still been like, you know what? I'm going to go get breakfast and I'm going to just start all over. I'm going to start the whole day again
Wow.
and give myself a reset.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
It's really worked for me. I also just love breakfast.
Again, it all comes back to catering.
It all comes back to catering.
All comes back. That's amazing. So what is next for you that like what are you looking for, setting intentions for yourself that would really excite you for whatever's next for you? That sentence was not a good sentence at all.
No, it was. And actually another
what
actress.
do you have? What excites you for your next move?
Getting to act on that multicam last year was so thrilling. It was so thrilling to be in front of a live audience and have like real-time rewrites, and work with like such a funny team. It was like Kevin Kwan and Michelle Nader. It was just, so I look forward to something that is also like really exciting for an audience, that is also like groundbreaking and interesting and has something to say. And, I am definitely like a glutton for laughs. Like I really like being a part of things that bring joy to people. Like there's such an immediate gratification in that. And so, there's that. So looking like really that, but I'm generally just open to things that are like creative and exciting. Like I don't have this, like I feel like things always come down the pipeline that are meant for me. And I have such a faith in that. Like there's just like, you're bowling and you don't bowl a strike, but another ball comes down. You get that ball and you try to get a spare.
So do you feel like you're not necessarily goal oriented where you're setting a goal and working towards it?
I am, in that I am working toward my highest goals, and that, for the best job. So I'm trying to be my best self to attract the best jobs. It means like taking great care of my body and keeping myself in training. Like I've been taking dance classes and like acting classes, and again, lots of reading. I think it's really important to like not read just screenplays and episodics, to read like books.
Yeah.
And I'm working on developing a podcast with my friend.
Oh yeah.
I'm doing that, and I've been writing things. I'm finishing some shorts. But in terms of goals, I think just optimally like being the best person I can be so that I can put my creative powers to the best use.
Wow. That's amazing. I love hearing that, that outlook, because I'm so goal oriented all the time. Like I'm always working towards something specific, but I think this year I've really leaned back from that a bit. Like this year I'm just so obsessed with happiness and joy and whatever that is, leaning into that and letting go of some of like the hardcore goals that I was creating for myself, because sometimes you get there and you're like, okay, I'm not like, it's not, I think happiness is just what I'm after right now. And so sometimes that means I'm not after a very specific goal.
That is, I love that though. I think that is a goal, because I think that then does align the things that you're working toward and what you're doing in your life to work toward those things. And that's what you attract. So I think those are totally plausible goals that you have. And I think that's, what other specific goals do you have,
Oh my
Erica?
gosh. I know. I was like, when are you going to start asking me questions? Deborah was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you questions on this podcast.
I wanted to ask you questions. I've been
I was
dying.
like, do it. I'm up for it. I mean, like, I want to buy a house here, and it's been an obsession of mine since 2013. And when I say a house, I mean mansion. And I used to be in the Hollywood Hills, but now Palisades. And so that is going to require certain finances. And so, I mean, I've done the work and I know exactly what finances it needs to be. So my goals have been very financially driven for the house, not really for anything else, but just to buy a house, or even to rent at this point. And so I've always had very specific financial goals about my business. Like, it's like when I first hit 6 figures annually, it was like, okay, now it's got to be $500,000. And now it's, like it's always been very financially driven. And this year I just really let go of all of that, because I feel like I was like very money obsessed, and I wasn't really taking the time to be like, wait a minute, do I actually really enjoy everything I'm doing to make that money? And so then now I'm writing a book, and potentially developing a TV show off of the book, because I want to be helping people in a bigger way. And because I feel like that's going to feel more fulfilling to me. So
Well, that's something I do too to fill up my well. I go and look at your Instagram and I read like
Oh.
your motivational thoughts, and like I listen to like your podcast, and this is not me just like sucking up. Like, I mean, like I that's part of why I wanted to be on your podcast. I'm like, I love
Thanks.
your perspective and way of thinking. And I just think it's all so positive, and I think it's the right way to last.
Thank you. Do you have
Yeah.
any other questions for me? I mean, what were you
Yeah.
not gonna ask me? I know we were talking about like marketing and social media and stuff before, but what else do you have?
What are your like from interviewing people and talking to people, what have been your takeaways that you think are the most effective strategies for people to be successful and to maintain their success?
I mean, a lot of what we are talking about, I think, I talk about burning of the ships a lot. Like, people are always wanting to know, how do I get to the next level? I always want to get to we're always looking forward. And I think that, I just did a presentation on this, like, it's about graduating yourself and deciding, right? So like everything you did with that Heart of Dixie show is a perfect example of what I teach based on what I've learned from these people. Is like, you have to choose to graduate yourself. You can't wait for the industry to graduate you. And, you've got to burn the ships. You've got to say no to opportunities that aren't at your next level, and all of that. And
that's what I was going to say, is that you have X amount of time, and that's why you have to choose. You have to be like, okay, where am I going to put my output and how much time do I have? So like, you'd love to say yes to everything, but you only have, that. I think that is something to consider when building your career. When people are like, oh, building it, I'm like, yes, think about where your output can be maximized.
100%. And believe that you can get what you want instead of, I have to take whatever I can get. I know like one takeaway for sure that I feel like I've been talking about a lot is a lot of people who are successful say, the bar is always moving, and people think, when I get there, then I'll be happy, or then I'll be free, or then I'll be successful. But that there is always moving. That bar is always moving.
I have one good spiritual story about that I wanted to say, that like last summer, I got offered a job to perform in a show at the Hollywood Bowl. And this was like a huge dream of mine that I could not imagine a million years turning down, because I was like, who doesn't want to perform at the Bowl, right?
Yeah.
But it just wasn't super lucrative. I didn't think it was the right role I thought it was a good role, but I just felt like maybe there wasn't like, I don't know, it was going to be a lot of time away from trying to get TV jobs. And I felt like it wasn't the right compromise. It was a long time commitment. And I just felt like what I really want to be doing is doing TV and comedy. And so I didn't take the job, and I was really bummed that I had to have a couple days where I was just like, oh, I hope that was the right thing to do. And then I booked this huge guest star on Aquafina as Nora from Queens. And I wouldn't have gotten that job if I hadn't stayed in New York and I hadn't believed that there was something more fulfilling down the pipeline for me. So it was really effective, and I'm so grateful. Like, that job was huge for me and super fun, but it happened because I said no to the other job.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And I love the thing you said about graduating yourself, because I do think that's true. When the student is ready, the master appears. So like, that's why you got to get on your game and be prepared.
But like, like I'll see an actor with like 30 co-stars on their resume, right? And so that's an example of not graduating yourself. You're like, well, I'm just taking what I can get. And whenever the industry decides that I'm ready for a guest star or recurring or whatever, that's when I will get it. As opposed to saying, hey, I'm going to stop auditioning for 2-line co-star roles. And that's going to make space for the guest star audition, so really deciding that you're ready for that next level.
Absolutely make space.
Mm-hmm.
That's 1,000% true. There has to be, it is like, there is a spiritual realm to that, of like being like, what can I attract into my life? But if I'm, so that you were saying those, what were your other things? What were your other takeaways? Because I like all of them.
Other takeaways. I don't know. I think, I think about the bar of always moving, just because, a lot of the people that I'm coaching, I mean, my clients run the gamut, but the majority of my clients are working on booking their first TV credit. And so we're in that world a lot where people are seeing the series regular as that holy grail, as the thing that will make their life just easier forever and ever, and like literally, like I think that a lot of times too, when actors are writing like, what's your dream, and it's like offer only, so I don't have to audition anymore, people are just coming to me and all the time, and I think that, like, I'm always trying to teach my clients that to get to let go of that, because you're putting so much pressure on this end goal that you're trying to get to. And I promise you, when you get there, it'll be great for a while, and then there's going to be another bar and it's going to move. And it also doesn't mean that your career is just going to be easy forever and you're never going to have any challenges again. So I think like that's just a big takeaway too, is that that there are challenges at every level, and people who are just starting out think that there's a level where the challenges stop.
That's perfectly said. That's perfectly, do you know that song, The Climb by Miley Cyrus?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's always going to be, it's always going to be another mountain. I'm always going to want to make it move. It's the climb. I just sang like 5 different keys, but it's true though. Like I remember thinking like when I got to Broadway, I was like, I'm only gonna have to do like 2 hours of work a night. Everyone must be so good once they're on Broadway. And like you get there and you're like, oh fuck. Like you have to deliver 8 times a week, plus previews, plus press events, plus, and nobody gets there and has this magical set of skills. They get there because they keep on their skill set, and they are endlessly working on their craft and taking care of themselves. And like, they're working at this pro level because they had to be ready for it. Like you can't last if you can't sustain that vocally or physically. It's the same thing with being a series regular. Like being a series regular is hard work. Like you've got people putting a lot of money behind you, and you've got to be able to deliver that for years and be able to deal with there's a lot of pressure. So you actually do want to build your way up there. You want to be able to get to that place where you could have the pressure of all these different, you know, creative minds, and that you're like, you can handle it and you're ready and you believe in yourself, that you're like, I am this person that deserves this role. Like I can do this.
Totally. I remember having that conversation with like some clients of mine who have dreamed of being, like in the superhero movies and being a star in what, like a Marvel movie kind of thing. And I love it. I love to aspire to that, but also understand it's not just the glamour, like it's the pressure of a studio movie on your shoulders. And and it's so much more than just showing up to set and acting that day. Like so much
more. I mean, when I coach younger actors, I always, or like, more beginning, I'm like, how can you go in and shoot and be a money saver? Like, how can you be so effortless and clean on all your takes that they're like, bring this person back. They cost us nothing.
Right.
Like, they're so fast and they're so prepared, they're ready to go. They're ready for camera. And the people that are like top series regulars, they're beasts. Like sometimes people think that film and TV is somehow easier, or like they're not doing anything, but actually they're doing tons of work. They're just making it look like they're just having a conversation. They're making it look easy.
Right. Especially when those pages come in last minute and you're memorizing a whole new set of pages, and you've been there since 5 a.m. and you're there until 10 o'clock at night, and it's a lot.
Yeah. And sometimes they give you like a whole monologue, and then they give you like, no joke, like 3 different eye lines you have to hit on certain words and be able to be in your light.
Right.
And be able to like relate to all those different relationships at once. Like it is, I mean, I've definitely had some moments where I'm like, I'm sweating. I'm like, okay, this eye line on this word, this eye line on that word.
Very technical.
Very technical, but also can't look technical. And if you flub your take, you just wasted all that time and all that money. So you're like, you got to nail it when you do it. Like, it's no joke.
Like 100 crew members standing around watching.
Yeah. That's why don't do drugs. Don't drink, don't do drugs. Like be ready to go. Be ready.
Yeah.
Top of it. So, and then what about your book? What's your book about?
What's my book about? My book it's like an ultimate how to achieve impossible dreams.
Yes.
And impossible's in quotation marks. So it's beyond Hollywood. I mean, obviously it's based on my experience in Hollywood coaching and being in Hollywood, but for me it's for the dreamers. It's for the people that have a dream inside of their heart that they feel like they have to pursue. So it's not just about, you know, pursuing a goal or achieving a goal. Like, to me, this book, the title really, I'm not sharing the title with anybody yet, but
No, don't keep it.
it took me a while to land on the title, and I'm hoping that a publisher doesn't change it because I really feel connected to it. But for me, like, it really is about the people who have this dream inside of them that they feel like they're meant to be pursuing.
I can't wait to read that. I'm sure it's going to be glorious and inspiring, as you are. I also, I did finally think of a goal I have. I want to have a job that is in one city for a long time, that is stable enough that I can get a corgi.
Oh my God.
And I don't have to hire like 5 dog walkers, like that I can really, that I can bring that corgi with me. Like, so that's really just, that's my goal. I dream big.
And what brought you to, because I know you were in LA and now you're in New York. So what brought you to New York?
I had booked some jobs here. I was coming back and forth working here a lot. And I cut my teeth here. I did lots of off Broadway here. And I just like not driving. It's really, I like not driving. And, you know, I really only ever think about food. And so I can eat like on every block here. And I mean, like, and I still believe in it, but I love theater. And I don't need to be doing it. I just love seeing live theater. And my theater fix was not getting fed in LA. So it was, so here I could see like 2 or 3 shows a week, and I felt like so nourished, and also like the TV industry had really grown here. So it was definitely a viable option to come here and also act on the small screen and or the big screen. So yeah, that's why I just love New York so much. I always have. I just can't quit her. I just love her. I can't quit her.
How do you feel about LA?
You know, LA is great. Like I learned so much in LA. I have so much respect for the TV actors in LA. They're so good. Like, it was amazing to kind of go there and be like, wow, these people are not, don't like wake up like camera ready. I was like, how dare you? You're so genetically perfect. How dare you? Like, no one has that kind of symmetry. But they also just like really, really good at like the nuance of TV and acting for camera. And I also like took a lot of the lifestyle things from LA. Like, I love how everyone's so health conscious, and I got my yoga certification at LA Yoga Works. Cause like when in Rome, you know, I was like, you know what? I'm in LA.
So LA of you.
I'm going to get certified in my 200-hour yoga teacher training. It's going to be great. And actually, so, and I went back and worked there last year, and that was great. And I'm sure like when life comes back, like I'll go to LA, and there's a lot of great things about LA. The people are great. I loved being a part of IAMA. I loved working in the theater company. That was really fulfilling and exciting. Let's see. Oh, I also wanted to just shout out, because I did talk about Heart of Dixie, and I didn't even mention like my bestie, Annabeth Nass, Caitlin Elizabeth Black, who's like my favorite person ever. Like, she's the funniest, nicest person. Aww. She got a write-up yesterday in the New York Times for her.
Oh, I saw she posted. How cool.
Relationship Deli. Oh my God, I was crying. I was so happy because like she's such a comedic genius. She's such the nicest person ever. Like, it was like her writing. It's her work.
Incredible.
And I was like, this is the universe. Like, they see that you're a genius too.
Oh, I love watching her and I love seeing her create her own content that is really quality and really funny. It's
so great. You know what else is great is that she's such a funny person. So like when I talk to her on the phone, I'm always laughing so hard. Like having actor friends like that is so great, because she's really, really funny. Like, and I love to laugh, and she just destroys me. She's always funny.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I know I told you, and I'm sorry I'm fangirling, but she was really funny on Heart of Dixie. Like, I feel like she's a really good actor. You know, I know I'm not the only one who feels that she was like the best character on that show, because I see these fans, you know, saying, you know,
she's brilliant. She's so funny.
And it's, you know, Okay, so everyone here on this podcast knows that I'm obsessed with Friends, and I know some people are not a fan, but one reason why I like it because the actors they make choices that are so specific, that are so comedic, that they're not just delivering lines. Like they're coming up with like the way they say things or their physical comedy. Like it's so I don't even know how else to explain it, but any actor can get up and deliver the lines, but to me they're doing something next level with it, and I feel like that's what Caitlin does on Heart of Dixie. Like she's not just delivering these lines and being the best friend and whatever. Like she's really unique in her comedy and the way that she delivers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. She has a unique point of view.
Yeah,
She has a really strong comedic point of view. She understands, how to be in the life of that character and how to.
this podcast is just like, we love Caitlin Black.
We do. I love her so much. Yeah, no, we do love her. So she's really, she's really special. But also, like, it was pretty big deal for me to work with like an original altar boy from Altar Boys, the musical.
From Scott Porter.
Yeah, that was like, that was dreams for me. That was a big deal.
That's cool. I mean, do you feel like, I feel like it is, but do you feel like Hollywood is small?
I do. I think, it is. And the New York theater community is also small. I do think it's small, but also I've learned that the hard way sometimes too, where I'm like, maybe I should have maybe I should have been better.
Yeah.
Could have handled that better, because I definitely ran into that person again. And it's also a good lesson not dating your coworkers, because it is small and you will see them again. So I would say, like, don't date grips. That's not like for anybody out there specifically like myself or anything, but I would just say, don't do it. I just say, like,
I love it.
Even though I will say that I think the Grip Electrics are the smartest and hottest, but I'd say, yeah, just
I love the Grips. I always make friends with them. Like I like on Glee, like I loved them. On Glee, we filmed at Paramount, and Paramount's a really big lot, and it was one of my earliest shows. So I was an assistant, I was a PA, and I had to deliver set drawings to set and all around, and I was the only one. I didn't have a golf cart and I didn't have a bike, and they felt bad, so they built me a bicycle from like parts. And they like one of the Grips was like, what's your favorite color? I was like, I don't know, purple. Why? And they made like an all purple bike
on the Paramount lot. I mean,
yes.
Like, you can just quit now. Like,
I know, I'm telling you, I agree with Grips are always amazing.
They are. That doesn't mean you should date them. You should just work at work, and then you should, not. Yeah. Anyways, just in case my mom ever listens.
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, Hollywood's so small.
But yes, but like, definitely date someone on set who can read your wiring if you have to.
Oh yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh my gosh. Do you know, I don't know if actors are aware, but are you aware of something called G-jobs?
No, what's that?
So it's like when you are a crew member and you have a skill. So if you're like construction, if you're part of the construction crew or whatever, people ask you to do jobs for them personally, like sometimes during downtime at work or whatever. And,
oh my God.
And like
you don't job.
Yeah, like you don't get paid for it. And so like I always did so many G jobs. And I don't even remember like why it's called a G job. I don't know where that comes from, but where I would have to design graphics, like one of the shows, the actor was like, Erica, I forgot to get a Valentine's Day card for my wife. Can you make me one? And like I would have to do stuff like that all the time. And I think in construction too, it'll be like, hey, can you just build me this headboard for my bedroom, and that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. I don't know why I didn't look for those G-job skills.
I mean, I think it's amazing, but like also we basically got taken advantage of because we're doing a job that we're not getting paid for, but because if we're getting it done
oh, really? Oh, you're not getting paid for it? Oh,
well,
fuck that, Erica.
Except like if you're doing it on the TV show's time, then technically like you're getting paid to be there.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I got it. I just want to ask you, because I think this is useful for all actors, and I think you're such an authority on this. So because you're such a great graphic designer and you're a designer, like what advice do you have for social media presence and like defining your brand that way and creating an aesthetic that you think is useful?
Oh yeah, we were talking about this. I mean,
yeah.
and like my position has really changed. years ago, I went to a marketing conference, and my mentor, the guy that was leading it, James Malinchak, he's so great. He showed us a picture of his very first book that he ever published. And like the cover was just not great. It didn't look very good. And he was like, don't worry, the next book, I got it and is much better. But he would always say, well, my ugly book is better than your non-existent book.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Right. And so
you better make an Instagram word post.
It's already a quote on there. He's tagged.
Okay.
I like ever since then, it's really helped me let go of the perfectionism. And even though I went to design school and I have the design degree, I'm really all for.
And you're phenomenally talented at it. Like everything you make is so beautiful. I'm like, come on, fountain of talent.
I'm a fucking lazy designer at this point. Like I don't like my branding is not specific colors. I'm like, it's kind of this pink and kind of this yellow and I'm really lazy, but I really am now all about like just get content out and worry later about how it looks. And it doesn't have to look beautiful and pretty and pristine. And like my stuff isn't matchy and whatever. It's more about getting it out.
Oh, I think that's good. That's a really good way to think about it, and like to take off the stress and the.
Yes. I do think like I was going to do a video about this. Actually, I think I did a podcast about this. Like maybe I was telling you on the phone, but my ideas about social media, especially for actors and anyone in the industry, has really shifted because, in the beginning I was, team actors, where actors hate that they need a following because they don't want to get cast over them just because of their following and not because of their skills. Right. And so and I totally understand that, people want to be cast for their talent and not because of how many followers they have on Instagram. And I understand that. And so I understand that that's not desirable. However, from a business standpoint, social media is an opportunity to market for free. Like you don't even have to run paid ads. You literally have an opportunity to market yourself and your work for free every day, however often that you want. And I really do think from a business standpoint, every artist should be marketing the shit out of themselves all the time.
That's brilliant. I have one more question for you. Well, I did ask you. I asked you like Wix versus Squarespace.
Oh yeah, I know. I just use Squarespace because that's what I've used always, and I love it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally I'm like, oh, I better get on that Squarespace bandwagon if Erica likes it.
Like, no, I mean, Wix
fantastic design aesthetic.
I mean, Wix is probably good too. I mean, I think I've seen Wix maybe a couple times. I feel like clients have used it before. Yeah, I just think I think I told you like Squarespace has templates that are designed by designers, and it's harder to fuck up.
I like it
on Squarespace, but definitely get your always be marketing yourself. And one thing that Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about is documenting and how impactful it can be to document your business behind the scenes, and like because
document your business. That's really great way to think about it.
Like in terms of branding and marketing, because I think the reason why too is because when you're documenting and you're showing, like I've been doing that with my book. I have 2 highlights on my Instagram behind the scenes. Oh my gosh, I got rejected by this agent today. Like I'm doing all of it behind the scenes so you can see how I get a book deal. But there's storytelling involved in documenting, and it makes people care. And and
I just wrote it down.
And so I think that's why like I always tell people, even if you're creating your own content or doing, a GoFundMe or whatever, just document every step of the way, because it makes people care. And by the time you have something ready to show people, it's like if I never talked about my book until the day it comes out, like it wouldn't have the hype and people wouldn't be ready to buy. Like I've got a wait list, by the way. If you're not on the wait list, get on the wait list.
Yes, I want to get on the wait list. Where do I go? I go to your website and sign up?
Hollywood Success Coach.
I'm already on your mailing list. But I get on the wait list. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if I wasn't documenting behind the scenes, people wouldn't be as invested. And so I think documenting is a really good way, because it's storytelling, it's compelling, it's compassion, it's empathy. And it's, to be honest, it's a lot easier than thinking about how do I market myself.
That's really well put, though, that it gets people invested in the story. Because sometimes I definitely struggle with being like, oh, I don't even know if I want to look at more information about myself. But it's in the context of like, I'm like documenting something or like bringing someone into the narrative, I can really feel great about storytelling. I feel like I'm adding value to content, that I'm not just, so I think that's so great. Like, you guys hear that? Add value to your content.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, document behind the scenes after an audition, or obviously when you're filming something, like do as much BTS stuff as you can. But I think document.
And by BTS, you mean that Korean,
Oh,
the
yes.
K-pop band, right? You mean document BTS. You mean like, yes.
Didn't know that was a thing. Behind the scenes. Yeah, I mean, you could even document like what you ate for the day or how your day is going, or, you know, like you're talking about your rejection process, you know, whatever it is. I think people are like along for the rest, like watching a reality show.
Well, I don't know if you see, like, but most of my Insta story posts have been like dogs. Recently it was turtles and raccoons, but I find joy. I was going to say, like, that's part of the thing that I've been focusing on, is like trying to have as much fun as possible, like really enjoying everything I do, like really enjoying it. And that has been great. So like, no matter what I'm doing, like I'm having a great time with you.
Me too. And, you know, and the thing about followers too, I was thinking like, even though you don't want to be chosen for your followers over your talent, at the end of the day, Hollywood is also a business. And so they're creating a TV show or a film to make money back. You know, they invested millions of dollars and now they need to make that investment back. And so if you have 3 million followers, just the same as if I had 3 million followers for my book, it's like almost guaranteed sales, guaranteed ticket sales, guaranteed book sales. And so it does help. And so I do think that, not that you want it in lieu of talent, but I do think it's a good business decision to grow an audience, and not even just for sales, but I think it's important, especially like for actors and writers and directors, to continue the conversation after your work is done. And if you don't have social media where you can interact with people after they see your episode or after they watch your movie, the conversation ends. But if you can continue the conversation, it can leverage into another project, into your next adventure, into anything.
You guys, did you hear during this podcast, I leveraged myself into getting free coaching from Erica? You guys, that was gold, right? I did it for you, for all of us. I'm like, oh, who knew, huh?
Gosh.
Yeah, let's get leveraging that coaching. That is really a wonderful perspective, and that is so useful. I'm so grateful that you have such smart insight into that.
Have you ever watched Veronica Mars?
I watched some.
So I don't know if you know about how that all went down.
Okay, I lied. I haven't watched it.
Okay.
But I did work with Ryan Hansen once, and I feel bad that I haven't watched it.
Well, you don't need to have watched it for this, but, you know, the show was on and then it ended. And then the fans, you know, the crazy fans that wanted to see more of it, they ended up doing a crowdfunding to get a movie made, and all the fans paid for the movie.
I did not know that.
Yes, and that's how the movie got made. And then that got leveraged into a season 4. And so none of that would have happened if they didn't have this fan base. And right now with social media, it's a really like easy way to help build that fan base by communicating. You know, like I feel like, you know, I don't know if this happens for you. If I watch a TV show and I'm like really excited and I love it, and then I go onto Instagram to look up the actors, and if they don't even have an account or they're hardly active on there, you know, like, not to call it a show, but I watch Manifest, and those actors, they're not posting that much about the show the way that some other actors are, and it feels like, oh, the conversation just ended.
Oh, wow. Also, that show is really fun. I'm like, where did they go for those years?
I love the show. I love
where did they go?
Yeah. But like, you know what I mean? It's like if the conversation didn't come to a halt because they're not posting as much, it could conversation continues and it can leverage into other opportunities.
That's a great way to look at it and not feel self-involved. Like, you know,
it's a business and you have to market. I mean, businesses need marketing.
Right. It's not a show hobby, show business.
No. Yeah.
So what's a show hobby? And,
yeah.
I have no punchline for that.
Well, then maybe that's a good time. I'm like, we've been talking for a really long time, which is not surprising. But maybe we should wrap this up.
Sounds good. Because I'm going to order some pizza.
I know. It's like all I'm thinking about is like what I'm gonna order, and it's so funny because you were like, well, when we wrapped this show, and at first, even though I'm in the industry, I thought you were saying you wrapped RAPPED,
Oh,
and I was like, what? You rapped? Like you rap too? Oh my gosh, you're so talented.
I have rapped in some things. You
Oh
can
my
find it on the internet.
I'm gonna Google Deborah rap.
Rap right now. I'm Deborah, I act on TV.
You're talking about rapping and then going to catering. And I'm like, oh, we're rapping right now. We can't go to catering, but we're gonna get dinner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll pretend that we're doing it together with my corgi.
Which is so funny because you're getting dinner at 9:30 and I'm gonna get dinner at 6:30.
And this is just my first dinner.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So I love all that media inspiration you just gave me. That's really helpful and really great perspective.
Good. So speaking of that, can people find you online anywhere? You know, if they want to continue the conversation and become
yes, they want to slide into my DMs. My Instagram is wait for it. It's at Friends with Pandas. But you can find everything by just Googling Deborah S. Craig. My Twitter is at Deborah S. Craig. Feel free to ask me anything. I'm really good at responding to people's questions.
I should have asked you, what's the S about?
Oh, the S is secret.
Oh, does it stand for secret? S for secret?
It's secret. I mean, you can put, shumai if you want it to be like a dumpling. It can be like, but it is a secret. It's a family tradition. We all use our like middle initials in our name. So my father was like Roy D. Craig. My mom is Susan M. Craig. My brother is Peter R. Craig. Stephen L. Craig. Deborah S. Craig. We all do that. But I also was highly influenced by Michael J. Fox. Let's be real.
Oh my gosh. I love that. But does it stand for anything?
It does, but I can't tell you.
Okay. So here's the thing that I think we should do then. Like every time I talk to you on Instagram or whatever, I'm going to make up a different S name.
Yes, I love it. Oh, and going back to that, like on Twitter, like I'm really good at, I always retweet compliments. So if you ever want to get retweeted by me, if you say something nice about me, I retweet you. Like that's my rule. I'm like, oh yeah, totally.
You know what I always repeat from Heart of Dixie? The compliment sandwich. I mean, it's not really originated from Heart of Dixie, but my clients and I talk about it all the time. Like when you want to give feedback to somebody, you compliment them first, and then you give the critical feedback, and then you compliment them again.
Compliments. It's really good.
Yeah. Like Deborah, you are so pretty and so talented. And I'm so glad I had you on my podcast. You could probably up your social media game a little bit, but I'm so impressed by the career you've built so far.
I don't know if I can do the sandwich, Erica. I don't think I have one handy. Like, I guess like Erica, you're so pretty. You're so, talented and inspiring. I think you could up your merchandising content, but I love the direction you're going in. Because I would buy whatever you have.
Yeah.
I went to go look for something and I was like, where can I buy?
Oh, well, but how much, like, it's so much easier to digest instead of if you were just like, Erica, you need more merchandise. Or if I was like, Deborah, you need to up your game in social media.
Yeah. I guess that would be good for like, I mean, I can think of many instances, but that I was about to cite some specific things that I shouldn't.
My dad, his middle name is A, but it doesn't stand for anything. And he's a twin, and his twin brother's middle name is B because my dad.
Come on.
They so wanted to go down that alphabet with the kids, and the wives stepped in. Were like, no, it's not Erica F. Wernick or G or whatever. But yeah, Larry A. Wernick and Andy B. Wernick.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And there's nothing, this stands for nothing. It's just a letter.
Right. It's not, there's no period.
No, the S definitely stands for something, but I keep it close to the best. Like I'll reveal at some point, but in the meantime, I'll keep them guessing.
Oh my gosh.
What I did there?
I see. Well, Deborah Surprise Craig, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was really like fulfilling for me to get to also hear your point of view on things. And thank you for asking me to share my journey. And if the people that are working toward this in their career or like in it, just really bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself.
Yeah, I always bet on me.
Always bet on me.
I'm the winning hand.
Love it. Best line ever to end on. So thank you so much for coming. And everybody, please come get on the wait list for my book, HollywoodSuccessCoach.com. And then you can click on the button or just go to HollywoodSuccessCoach.com/the-book. Get on the wait list. You'll be first to know when it comes out. Maybe I'll have a launch party and you'll be invited. I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna celebrate. But yes, thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys soon.
And it feels like I'm on top of the world.